On the sports field, athletes are always in the spotlight. How they play the game brings tension, excitement, and emotion to audiences on site and around the globe. While athletes strive for higher achievements, a less noticed yet critical element is their relationship with the coach. What is the subtle connection between coach-athlete relationships and performance? And how can coaching be advanced? In this seminar, Dr. Bryan Chiu, Associate Professor at the Shau School of Business and Administration at Hong Kong Metropolitan University, introduces the emerging topic of coach-athlete relationships and shares his advice on methods to complement efforts from both sides.
Today, the topic I'm going to talk is coach-athletes relationships. Okay, so actually it's a very new topic, and in the early 2000s, the scholars just started to conceptualize the concept of coach and athletes relationship, and more recently, many scholars found the link between coach and athletes relationship and the athlete's performance. This is the outline of today's seminar. First of all, I will briefly introduce social psychology in a coaching context. Then I will move to coach and athletes relationship and how coach and athletes relationship can affect your coaching. And we will learn the contents and quality of coach-athletes relationship. We will also learn some research findings to know how different factors can affect the quality of coach and athletes relationship. And finally, I will give you some tips summarized by the researchers, how you can develop better coach and athletes relationships. There are also some strategies you are going to learn today so that after today's seminar, you can develop better relationships with your athletes. So as I expect, most coaches think you have a good relationships with your athletes, all right? But you need to know that in a relationship, in any relationship, there are two people, right? In coach and athletes relationship, there's coach and athletes. So here we can know the coach's idea. Many of you think you have a good relationship with your athletes, but have you ever thought the athletes think in the same way as you are? Have you ever think about this question? Previous studies found that the coach's perception of the relationship and athlete's perception of the relationship, the correlation between these two is very minimum. Some study even found insignificant correlation between these two. What does that mean? It means that you think you have a good relationship with your athletes, but probably your athletes do not think in the same way. Because relationship is interactive. What you think doesn't mean the other side will think in the same way. Before talking about coach-athletes relationship, I would like to talk about social psychology first. What is social psychology? Social psychology is actually under the umbrella of psychology. It's a scientific investigation of how the feelings, thoughts, behaviors of individuals are influenced by other people. So here you need to know that all of us here, we are influenced by other people. Like right now, I'm standing here. My behavior right now is actually influenced by you. So same as you. So all our behaviors and our thoughts, our feelings are influenced by other people all the time. That's the core concept of social psychology, the influence of other people. And therefore, social psychology includes a lot of concepts like leadership. The leader's behavior influences the followers. And relationship. The two people in the relationship, they influence each other. Motivation. Sometimes we are motivated by someone else. Athletes are motivated by coaches. And also self-concept. What do we think ourselves is also shaped by other people. So social psychology explores a lot of social behaviors. Then now you may have a question. Why we need to study social psychology in coaching context? Because sports coaching is defined as the interpersonal process in social context. There are a lot of other people in coaching context. For example, we have a lot of coaches here. We have athletes. More than that, the athletes may have peers and families. Families can include the parents and also the siblings, brothers and sisters, and also the audience and the spectators. All the people in a coaching context will influence coaches and athletes. We know the athletes' development is influenced by a lot of people in coaching context. All these different people influence the athletes' feeling, thoughts, and behaviors. That's within the context of social psychology. And all this together will influence the athlete's development. Coaching is a process carried out in association with other people. Coaches, athletes, just like the other people I just mentioned. Here I would like to ask you a question. So for an athlete, who do you think are the most important other people? Actually, the importance of other people will be different depending on the athlete's age. For the young athletes, the parents' family will be more important. For the teenagers, probably their friends will be more important. For the mature athletes, for the adult athletes, the coaches can play a more important role. Let's move to the personal relationship in sports, because there are many different types of other people. There are many personal relationships in coaching context. From athletes' perspective, the athletes can have relationships with their parents, their siblings, and other athletes, and of course, coach. And from coach's perspective, there can be more relationships. Okay, just a few examples. Coaches can have relationship with the other coaches and athletes' parents, other supporting staff, and of course, with athletes. I want to emphasize the relationship between coach and athletes. And previous studies have emphasized the importance of this relationship, and this relationship is considered to be particularly important. Why? They have the similar goal, or they have the same goal. Studies mention that coach and athletes can spend a long time together, especially for elite athletes. Previous studies focus on the elite athletes' development, and they found that coach-athletes relationship is particularly important because they spend a long time together. For professional athletes, for elite athletes, it will be more significant. Study also found that the coach-athletes relationship is closely relevant to coach effectiveness. Then what is coach-athletes relationship? Here is the definition. Coach-athletes relationship is a situation in which a coach and athletes cognitions are actually thoughts. What do you think? And feelings. What do you feel? And behaviors are your actions. All these together are mutually and causally interrelated. In a coaching context, behaviors are easy to observe, but the cognition, the thoughts, and the emotions sometimes are difficult to notice. But actually, both coach and athletes, cognitions, feelings, and behaviors are mutually influenced. Coaching concerns two people, the coach and athletes, as I mentioned, and the two people from the unique dyadic relationship that holds a great deal of power and allow both coach and athletes to achieve their goals. But sometimes people focus on the role of coach too much. If this relationship is an equal relationship or a healthy relationship, both coach and athletes should have the power to achieve their goals. Neither the coach or the athletes can do it alone. In the coaching context, coach cannot do it alone without athletes, right? And the athletes need to improve. They need the coach as well. So they cannot do it alone. They both need one another to achieve their goals in sports. And actually, they are together in a sports journey. The quality of coach and athletes relationship provides a social situation that allows both coach and athletes to thrive independently and together. Research found that coach and athletes relationship is linked to different outcomes. The first one is the performance-related outcomes, like confidence, motivation, and success. And also the well-being-related outcomes, the positive mental states like happiness, subjective well-being. So these mental things are also linked to the coach and athlete's relationship. So both of which are very important ingredients for thriving in sports. Here I'm going to show you some examples. Great coaches focus on mastering relationships. For example, the Federer here. I guess most of you know who he is, right? And his coach Ivan say that before being a coach, I have been a great friend of Roger for many years. And also Coach K. Coach K mentioned that in my relationship, I wanted to believe me when I tell you that you are great, and I wanted to believe me when I tell you that you are not working hard enough. These two quotes actually have a lot of meanings. Here, they be good friends for a long time. It shows the commitment between this coach and these athletes. The coach say that when I say you are good, you are good. When I say you are not working hard, you are not working hard. So it means the honest of the coach in the relationship. Because Coach K doesn't hide themes from their athletes. Be very straightforward to their athletes. I also found two examples in Hong Kong. Like these athletes, Haley Chan, who is the windsurfer. In her relationship with the coach, she said that because of him, I can see the dawn and go to Tokyo Olympics. We can see her reliance on the coach. And for this case, we can see Coach Zhang Diyang say that coaches should progress together with the athletes. I personally really like this. The coach and athlete should be together. They should develop together. And also the athletes say that he never gave up on me even when I felt that I was not capable of continuing to swing. I personally like these quotes. Two is better than one if two can act as a one. If coach and athletes can act as a one, it can generate a lot of positive outcomes. Here I would like to spend a few minutes talking about coach-athlete relationship and coaching. This figure is the evolution of coaching approach. Many years ago, coach-centered approach. Many coaches adopt this approach to coach their athletes. In 2005, scholars found that there is a shift from coach-centered approach to athlete-centered approach. And more recently, scholars observed the shift from athlete-centered approach to coach-athlete-centered approach. I will further explain these three approaches. The first one, coach-centered approach, is very simple. The coach dominates the coaching process. The coach controls everything. The coach is at the center of coaching process. So coach do a lot of things, thinking, telling, and the coaches know what is the best for players and provide the training and set an agenda, prepare everything for the athletes. Then what is the athlete's role? The athletes play a limited role in a coach-centered approach. The athletes just follow the instruction. And how about the athlete-centered approach? It's very different. Athletes is at the center of coaching. So the role of coach is to help. As you can see here, is to help, to ask the athletes what you want, how I can fulfill your needs. And the coaches listen. Here the athletes are involved in the decision-making process. So here we can see that the athletes have the power to make a decision, have the power to decide what they want to do. It's actually two very different coaching styles. It's on two different sides, as you can see here, continuum. It can be high-level coach-centered approach. And the other side is the high-level athlete-centered approach. And in the middle is neither coach nor athlete-centered coaching. Scholars found that both extreme coaching approaches are problematic. The coach-centered approach ignores the role of athletes. The athlete-centered approach neglects the role of coaches in coaching. More recently, so in 2021, scholars proposed the coach-athlete-centered approach. So you can see figure here. The combined point is here, coach and athletes they should be the center of coaching process. This approach addressed the shortcomings of coach-centered approach and athlete-centered approach, because this approach acknowledged the joint contribution of coach and athletes. They see coach and athletes equally in the coaching process. And this approach placed the coach-athlete relationship at the heart of coaching. The core concepts of this approach is that coach and athletes should be at the heart of coaching. I would like to spend a few minutes talking about coaching effectiveness, because the quality of coach-athlete relationship offers a measure of coaching effectiveness, which means that your relationship with your athletes is an indicator of your coaching effectiveness. So the definition of coaching effectiveness is according to how coaches meet their athletes' needs and help them fulfill their goals. It's a very broad definition. When it comes to the coaching effectiveness, many coaches may think performance, how I can help the athletes to improve their skills, improve their performance, move to the next level. So probably it's the coaching effectiveness, what you are thinking about. But actually, coaching effectiveness is a very broad concept. Coaching should include not only the performance, but also other aspects. It's a structure of the coaching effectiveness. As you can see here, we can see coach and athletes. In the coaching context, we will always see coach and athletes. The role of the coach is to deliver the knowledge to the athletes, and the athletes learn the knowledge and demonstrate something athletes learn from the coach. That's the outcomes. But when it comes to knowledge, it's not only the sport-specific knowledge. There are some different aspects of knowledge, like interpersonal and intrapersonal. Interpersonal knowledge simply refers to the ability to interact with other people. So it's coaches' ability to work with someone else. And also the intrapersonal, it's the ability for reflection, a coach's ability for reflection and introspection. And how about athlete's outcome? First, competence. Competence is actually performance, the skills, techniques, learn from the coach. But it's just one of the outcomes. Athletes learn more from coaches. They build their confidence. What is connection? Connection is the social relationships. The athletes learn how to interact with someone, the sociability. And also the character. The coaching can help the athletes to build the right character, integrity, sportsmanship. These kind of things are also important athletes' outcomes. And in coaching, there are a lot of different contexts, like youth sports, elite sports, recreational level, and the high school college. So like youth sports, the important athletes' outcomes could be maybe confidence, maybe learn how to play with other kids, build the right character. But in elite level, the importance of outcome can be different. It could be the competence, which is relevant to performance. Then what is the role of coach and athlete's relationship? The good quality coach and athlete's relationship can help the coaches to deliver their knowledge to the athletes. It can facilitate the coaching process and increase coaching effectiveness. So this is the concept of coaching effectiveness. This is the conceptual model of coach and athlete relationship. This model is proposed in 2005. As I mentioned before, coach and athlete relationship is a quite new research field. And most of the studies are done by Jowett, who is still working at Loughborough University in UK. Based on this model, there are 4 elements here. We call this 3+1C model. It's probably the only conceptual model of coach and athlete relationship. The first one is closeness. So what is closeness? Closeness refers to the affective bond. It's an emotional thing, emotional connection between a coach and athletes. And how the athletes and coach developed the trust, as you can see here, trust, respect, appreciation, and liking between each other. The second is commitment. What is commitment? Commitment means whether the coach and athletes, they want to stay together, whether they think, if I work with you, I will have a bright, promising future. I will become a superstar in the future. So that's kind of the commitment. Commitment refers to an athlete and a coach thoughts, what they think about the relationship, why they want to stay together. And next is the complementarity. Complementarity refers to behaviors between coach and athletes, how they work together, the behaviors of cooperation and collaboration. And that's one co-orientation in the middle. It refers to the degree there is agreement and similarity between athletes and coaches' perception about the relationship quality. There is similarity between them. Do you think you have a good relationship with your athletes? If your athletes think in the same way, that means you have the co-orientation. Both of you think in a similar way, and both of you have similar goals. That's the concept of co-orientation. And now, after knowing what is coach and athlete's relationship, we're going to learn some factors which can affect the quality of coach and athlete's relationship. This section will be a little bit difficult because I summarized some findings from previous studies. I'm going to introduce 3 individual different characteristics. The first one is gender, the second one is personality, and then I will talk about how coach behavior and leadership will influence the quality of a coach and athlete's relationship. The first one is gender. Have you ever thought how gender affects the relationship quality? Previous studies have found that female coaches are more understanding and empathic than male coaches. And in the coach and athlete's relationship, there are different gender combinations. As you can see figures here, male coaches, male athletes, so there are 4 different gender combinations. And previous studies found that different gender combinations show different levels of satisfaction and also different levels of relationship quality. Can you have a guess? Which gender combination has better coach-athlete relationship? From previous studies, all studies found that the same gender combination usually has better coach and athlete relationship. Male coach and male athletes and female coach and female athletes, they usually have better coach and athlete relationship. And especially female coach and female athletes has the highest level of satisfaction and relationship quality. These slides talk about some observations from male coaches. It's a quite new study. This study found that when the male coaches coach the female teams and male teams, they show different behaviors. It was found that the male coaches organize longer training sessions, less time on task, and more time off task for female athletes than male athletes. What does that mean? It means that the male coaches spend more time on the activities which are not relevant to sports, which are not relevant to training, which cause the training session longer. And male coaches manifest some coaching behavior like they give more reinforcements, they encourage more to the female athletes, they give more instructions to the female athletes. But surprisingly, study found that this kind of behavior can lead to the low level of relationship quality. We know the male coaches, they have the good intentions to coach the female athletes. They want to show their care to the female athletes. But somehow study found that such ways can limit the female athlete's development because the male coach should coach the athletes, not the gender. Some other studies, not this study, some other studies all found that the additional training, additional reinforcements, encouragements can undermine the female athletes' self-esteem. Female athletes, they want to be treated equally. That's the finding from some previous studies, which are very interesting and are relevant to the coach and athlete's relationship. So based on the finding, I would like to ask you some questions you can think about. So how can you develop similarity with your athletes if the gender are not the same? And how do you develop common ground with each athlete in your team, squad, and group? And last one, how do you coach female athletes? We mentioned that if we coach the female athletes differently, providing more care, support, encouragement, sometimes it can undermine the relationship, right? So these are some questions you can think about in your coaching. And personality. Personality can also affect the relationship quality. Personality has been found to be related to relationship quality, and relationship quality can influence satisfaction and performance. So here is the big 5 personality traits. It's a theory talking about 5 different personality traits. I'm not going to explain all of that, but from these 5 personality traits, it was found that the athletes and coaches with a higher level of neuroticism tend to have a lower level of relationship quality. These personality traits means the stability of emotion. Neuroticism means that people easily get emotional, become angry. So it's a low level of emotional stability. And another study found that conscientious athletes and coaches with these personality traits tend to have a higher level of relationship quality. So conscientious is the personality that the people plan ahead and have a clear goal, that kind of personality. And another finding, which is very interesting, is that only athletes' personality traits affect coaches' perception of relationship quality. What does that mean? It means that coaches' perception will be influenced by different athletes' personality. But athletes' perceptions will not be influenced by different coaches' personality traits. That's what this study found. Based on the finding, we need to think about whether your coaching style is influenced by the athlete's personality. So when you are coaching the athletes who may be a little less easy to interact with, you have different coaching styles and you form different coach and athletes relationship. So next one is coach behaviors. How does your coaching style affect the relationship quality with your athletes? Here I would like to talk 2 types of coaching behaviors. The first one is autonomy, supportive coaching style. And the other one is controlling coaching style. Okay, so what is autonomy, supportive coaching style? It means that the coach provides choices to the athletes, listen to athletes, and give the athletes autonomy to do the things athletes want. Do something to support the athletes. So that's the autonomy supportive coaching style. And the second is the controlling coaching. Controlling coaching means that the coach use pressure to control the athletes, just give the orders. There are limited communication between the coach and athletes. So the role of the coach is just give order. It's kind of the ideas of coach-centered approach. The coach dominates the coaching process and not allow the athletes to participate in a decision-making process. So I think it's very obvious that which one can help the athletes and the coach to develop better relationship, right? So which one? Autonomy supportive coaching style. A previous study found that autonomy supportive coaches are more likely to develop better coaches and athletes relationship than controlling coaches. That the athletes participate in the decision-making process. Listen to athletes, be open to athletes. Doing these kind of things can help the coach and athletes develop better relationship. And athletes who receive better relationship with their coaches report more positive coach behaviors. Like, for example, positive communication and better technical instructions and more emotional supports. So if the coach can perform these kind of behaviors, positive behaviors, the athletes are more likely to perceive better relationship with their coaches. There are 2 questions to ponder. Do you provide choices, inspiration, supports on and off the field of play? If you provide choice, inspiration, and support in your coaching, that means you are autonomy supportive coach. So if you are autonomy supportive coach, I believe you have a good relationship with your athletes. And here mentioned that on and off field. There's a point I wanted to know. Coaches and athletes do not interact in training, in competition, in sports context only, right? They still do something together. the non-sports activities. They may go to have lunch together. They may go to watch movie together. They can do non-sports activities together. And more recently, researchers start to explore how these non-sports activities can help the coach and athletes develop better relationships. And it found that those non-sports activities can be more important than the sports activities, like the things happen in the coaching process. Another question is, how do you relate, interact, lead, influence, and communicate with your athletes? These are some questions I would like to ask you to think about. How do we develop better coach and athletes relationship? How we can develop and maintain good quality coach-athletes relationships? In the following slides, I would like to introduce some tips summarized by the researchers. Those tips can help the coaches develop better coach and athletes relationship in their coaching context. And I will also introduce a model, which is a communication strategy model. And there are some questions for you to think about in your coaching context. Before talking about developing better coach and athletes relationship, there's something I want to remind you. A relationship comprises two members, coach and athletes. Both coach and athletes play an important role in the development process. Developing better coach and athletes relationship is not only the responsibility of coaches. Athletes, their role in developing and maintaining a relationship is also important. Both coach and athletes should know the importance of coach and athletes relationship and maintain and develop better relationship quality together. As a coach, coaches need to raise athletes' awareness of the importance of relationships and encourage them to play an active role. That's what I heard from some athletes. Some athletes, they just train. They go to training, okay, after 2 or 3 hours practice, and that's it. It's just like a job. They don't care their relationship with their coaches. Our relationship matters. Our relationship can help the athletes have better performance. To develop better coach and athletes relationship, we need to focus on the 3+1 C's. We just learned this in the previous slides. So the 4 C's, closeness is the emotional bond with the athletes. And what is commitment? Commitment is the glue that keeps a coach and athletes connected through the highs and lows. Even during the difficult times, they still want to be with each other. That's the concept of commitment. And complementarity is behavior aspects between coach and athletes. It's about their engagement in cooperative and collaborative behavior. Co-orientation is the agreements and the similarity between coach and athletes, whether they think in a similar way, whether they have the common ground between each other. So these are some ingredients which are important to develop successful coach and athletes relationship, like closeness, like trust, liking, appreciation, respect, openness, and honesty. And for commitments, whether the coach and athletes, they have clear goals, short-term and long-term, whether they think that their sports career is promising, whether they understand each other's needs. So complementarity, as I mentioned, is behavior. How well they work together, how clear they know their roles, how they collaborate with each other, how they support each other, how they challenge each other. And last one is co-orientation, is whether they share the similarities and interest, whether they have common goals, whether they have the same vision, whether they share the empathy. These are some tips summarized by the researchers. And I believe you probably have your ways and your tips. Okay, that's what I want to share with you. Here are some tips, like take time to provide praise, encouragement, supports, constructive feedback to each other during the training, competition, and non-sports context. As I mentioned before, not only in sports, in non-sports context, they still interact with each other, right? Coach and athletes. They still do something else together. So coach and athletes, they need to engage in small talk. know each other's birthdays, so show interest in activities that take place outside sports, and also engage in team building and social activities that involve others, like other athletes or other coaches or maybe their parents. All these activities, to some extent, can increase like the trust, liking, appreciation, openness, respect, and honesty. The next one is how we can build commitments in coach and athletes relationship. 3 tips here. Ensure that you do not miss any competitions and the training and be on time. Show the responsibilities, show your passion to your athletes. Be mentally and physically ready for training. For example, be the first to training or be the last to leave. That the other side, that your athletes see your passion during the training process. And your athletes will feel that and will be more committed to you. And always be prepared to give your time to your coach, because you are coaches, so give your time to your athletes. For example, stay longer to practice or stay longer to give instruction or feedback to the athletes. Spend more time with your athletes. And that's one is to listen and to learn from each other and set together individual and team goals. So as I mentioned, all these activities and all these behaviors can contribute to a higher level of commitment in coach and athletes relationship. Next is complementarity. To increase complementarity, establish clear team goals and expectations, like a code of conduct coaches and athletes know and understand, as well as consequences if rules and codes are not followed. Set the clear roles, set the clear expectations in the relationship, and that the athletes know if your role and expectations are not met, what we should do. And ensure both coach and athletes provide input and active participate in the training session. So it means that both athletes and coaches need to be active in the coaching process to co-create the value. The next one is to achieve balance between order and freedom. Provide clear training and competition structure. The balance between order and freedom. So do you remember the coaching style I mentioned? There are 2 coaching styles, right? The autonomy, supportive coaching. And second is controlling. These 2 coachings are not 2 different coaching styles. They are continuum. It'd be more autonomy supportive or more controlling. So you need to find a balance between them. Don't be too controlling in your coaching. Find a good balance between giving the order to the athletes and giving the freedom to your athletes. And last one is the co-orientation. Ensure the goals are agreed upon coaches and athletes and understood by all and are in line with everyone's capabilities, expectations, hopes, and aspiration. Athletes and coaches, they need to be on the same boat. They need to know each other. They need to agree with each other. And there is something to increase the agreements between each other, because they need to be curious, ask questions, actively listen to each other's responses. It's basically the communication. The more they communicate, the more coach and athletes communicate, they can know each other better. They can know whether there are some conflicts between each other or some disagreements between each other. And through the communication, they can have the common sense of their goals. And that's one is be sensitive and understanding of each other's needs and try to understand each other's views and perspectives. Here I would like to introduce these concepts. This concept is called campus model. Campus model is an evidence-based communication model highlighting 7 different strategies that coaches and athletes use or can use to develop better working relationships. So here, we need to know that, as I mentioned before, to develop better relationship, both coach and athletes need to be active in a development process. And these strategies are for both coach and athletes. We can apply the compass model to develop better coach and athletes relationship. First one is conflicts management. So conflicts happen all the time in different relationships, right? But conflicts are inevitable. The second O stands for openness, and M stands for motivational. P is preventative, and A is assurance. S is support, and last one is social network. Let's go through these 7 strategies one by one. So what is conflict management? Conflict management reflects efforts to identify, discuss, resolve, and monitor potential areas of disagreements and misunderstanding. We know that conflicts are inevitable. So as a coach, if conflicts happened, what you can do? You should show your efforts to deal with the conflicts, right? So when it comes to conflict management, there are different strategies, different conflict management strategies. One of the strategies is doing nothing. Okay, I don't know whether it is the way you deal with the conflicts in your relationships. Sometimes, if we have conflicts, we just don't talk to each other to give us some quiet time, right? It's one of the strategies to deal with conflicts, but it's definitely not the best way. It's actually the worst way. Because if you don't communicate, you don't deal with the conflict is still there. And once, twice, 3 times, the more conflicts you have, when conflicts accumulated, it probably will lead to the end of the relationship. Here, I have some questions for you. You need to ask yourself, when you face conflicts, how do you show your ethics that you are calm, you're patient, you're willing to listen, you're ready to resolve the conflicts and the issues between the coach and athletes? So these are some questions. So ask yourself. This question reminds my coach before. I remember my coach before, he doesn't like this. He doesn't like athletes to raise questions, raise the issues. Okay. So it becomes quiet when we are training. All the athletes become quiet, don't want to raise questions because they know the coach is not going to listen. So that makes the whole team atmosphere become very strange. All these questions show your efforts to deal with the conflicts occurred between the coach and athletes. All right, so second strategy is openness. What is openness? Openness includes conscious efforts to engage in open lines of communication. Basically, it's open communication. What do you do to explain your viewpoints? And what do you do to provide feedbacks, provide recognition to your athletes? And when the athletes want to communicate, whether you are there, whether you are approachable, here are some questions you can ask yourself. Do I explain my opinion and thoughts? And do I give my athletes honest and constructive feedback? And do I provide my athletes praise and recognition when appropriate? And that's when I'm open about my feeling with my athletes. So probably you can think about that question. Am I open? Some coaches may want to hide their feelings to their athletes, right? They don't want their athletes to know what I'm thinking about, what I'm feeling. But if you are open to your athletes about your feelings, the athletes will feel that. So it's kind of the key points to build the better coach and athletes relationship. And last one is motivation. Motivation highlights efforts from both coach and athletes to develop and maintain a partnership that is rewarding, ambitious, and dynamic. Provides reasons for maintaining and staying the relationship. Here, you need to ask yourself, how do you show you are motivated to work with the athletes? Do you really want to work with these athletes? How hard you work with your athletes? So here are some questions for you. Do I show that I'm motivated to work hard with my athletes? And do I show my ability as a coach? Do I show I am motivated to achieve? Do I work hard to achieve the goals set? And do I show that I am passionate about coaching in a sport? Motivation. So let's move next one is preventative. I mentioned before that coach and athletes, they need to set the clear expectations and rules. What you need to do, what you should not do, and what should happen if these are not met. So that the athletes know what is your role, what is my expectation, and what are the rules. But if these are not met in the training, what we should do. All of these, the athletes or the coach need to know. So you can ask yourself, I make sure my athletes knows what I expect from them. I ensure my athlete is aware when he or she has not met my expectation, and I like to have regular reviews about progress and how we get on with one another. Preventative, all right. Assurance. Assurance includes showing one's commitments to the relationship. For example, making sacrifice will assist the relationship to be purposeful, functional, and successful. So you need to ask yourself, how do you make sure that your athletes can rely on you when things are not going well? It just reminds me the example we mentioned, the coach and athletes relationship. Okay, the athletes can really rely on the coach. When the athletes need the supports, need the help, the coaches are there for the athletes. Here are some questions for you. So do I show my athletes that he or she can rely on me when things are not going well? And do I act in ways that my athletes can count on me to achieve our performance goals? And I approachable enough so that my athletes feels that he or she can talk to me about anything. Okay? Assurance. The next one is support. Support is very simple. It reflects in helping one another. The coach helps athletes helps the coach through difficult times. Supports can be emotional, informational, and tangible. When the athletes are really frustrated, whether the coaches are there to provide emotional supports, or if the athletes do not know how to do, whether the coaches are available to provide information to the athletes, or even when the athletes have financial problems, the coaches can provide some, monetary supports, to the athletes. So here, I would like to ask you some questions. How do you give supports when needed? So do you give your athletes supports when they are going through a difficult time? We know that athletes will go through a lot of difficult times, transitions, injuries. When the athletes need help, need supports, whether you are there. And am I considerate of events in my athlete's personal life? And am I prepared to spend time to understand the type of supports my athletes may require to help him or her? Let's move to the last one. The last one is social network. In coaching context, there are lots of different relationships, right? We mentioned there are a lot of personal relationships in sports. The relationship built between the coach and athletes is not disconnected from other relationships. Coach and athletes relationship is there, but athletes still build relationship with someone else. It can be assistant coach, it can be teammates, it can be parents, it can be partners. So the coaches need to create opportunity to develop strong bond with others is important. Social network here means that in a coaching context, there are a lot of different relationships. So how the coach can develop relationship not only with the athletes, but also the athletes' parents, other coaches, brothers and sisters. Building relationship with others can develop a strong bond, can help the coach and athletes develop a stronger bond with each other. So ask yourself, do I like spending time with my athletes and mutual friends? It can be coach, fellow athletes, supports, staff, and each other's family. Do I talk to my athletes about our mutual friends, like fellow athletes, coach, support staff, as well as personal interests like and dislike that's maybe relevant to our sports? I think this strategy will be very challenging for many coaches. Right? We know that coaches are very busy. Sometimes they may have a lot of athletes need to coach. And if you want the coaches to build other relationship with the athletes like parents or other people, it will be very difficult. But we can observe many elite coaches, like the higher level athletes, they do so. So we can see some coaches may have lunch or dinner or do something else with the athlete's whole family. Doing so can strengthen the coach and athlete's relationship. So here is the compass model, which the coach and also the athletes can use to develop or even maintain the coach and athlete's relationship. So, conclusion, coach and athlete's relationship is at the heart of effective coaching and successful coaching. In today's seminar, there's one point I want all the coaches can know. Your relationships with your athletes matter. And how you get along with your athletes will be very important in your coaching. And a good quality relationship has the capability to promote better performance and well-being. So some coaches may think, why do I need to waste my time to build a relationship with the athletes? Actually, doing so can help the athlete's performance as well, and also the well-being. The athletes will be happier. And the relationship quality is affected by a lot of factors. So remember the factors we learned today, like gender, personality, and also the coaching behavior. And last, we learned there are some different strategies we can use to promote better quality relationship. Conflict management, the campus model can help develop better quality coach-athletes relationships. Thank you very much.